Greetings, dear audience. Welcome to yet another episode of our podcast series. Today, our topic for deliberation is India Japan ties, dissecting defense cooperation, technology, and people to people ties. And for the same, my today's guest is Dr. Ulupi Borah. I am your host, Webubi, a research assistant at CENJOWS, and today, Dr. Ulupi Borah is going to talk about India Japan relations. Dr. Borah is a distinguished fellow at CENJOWS. She has been researching on Japan, its strategic, technology, and security dimensions for 12 years now. Dr. Borah earned her PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, on Japan and South China Sea dispute, with a portion of her PhD conducted in Japan, Niigata University. In 2019, she became the first Indian scholar to receive the Japan Student Service Organization scholarship from the previous government of Japan. Previously, Dr. Borah served as assistant professor at Rashtriya Raksha University. She was awarded the U.S. mission to the UN Fellowship 2023 to attend the new issues in security course at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. She was also a delegate at the India-Japan Strategic Dialogue 2025 held in Tokyo. A very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Parvati.
So, India-Japan ties have long been described as a partnership rooted in trust, diversity, democratic values, and a common vision for free and open Indo-Pacific. But beyond diplomacy and strategic dialogue, what truly gives depth to this relationship are the technology, the defense cooperation, the people, and the long-standing economic and security complementarities between the two countries. From growing people-to-people ties and cultural exchange to collaborating in cutting-edge technology sectors such as semiconductors, critical minerals, and defense manufacturing, India and Japan are increasingly seeing each other as indispensable partners in a rapidly evolving global order. Today, we will explore how this partnership is evolving on the ground, what are the potential opportunities, what are the challenges, and how India and Japan can work together to strengthen the regional stability and build a resilient supply chain. Very warm welcome, ma'am, again. So, without further ado, let's dive into the questions. So, Japan has advanced materials and precision, while India has a lot to offer in terms of skill, design, talent, scale. How realistic is a joint semiconductor ecosystem?
Thank you for this very relevant question, Parvati. To answer to your question, I think I would like to go back a little bit towards 1980s. If you see, when we talk about semiconductor sector of Japan, Japan was contributing 50% to the global semiconductor market. Its grand technology. To the extent that American companies were also dependent on them. But towards the 90s, America had to impose export restrictions, and that is where we see hubs like South Korea and Taiwan came into being. And today, if we see Japan's contribution is 10%. Now, coming to India, where are we? India also, started the journey somewhere in the 1960s, and companies like, HL, Bell were there, tried to, make an ecosystem. But in the 1980s, the Semiconductor Complex Limited, SCL, was there. The fire caught it, and late 1980s there was a fire. So unfortunately, we could not move ahead much in that. But in 2007, the first semiconductor policy came into play. But today, with the effort and the push from the government of India, we are seeing a lot of developments happening in this sector. We can see the India Semiconductor Mission, which came into being in 2021. It focuses on foreign investment, just looking into how to execute, especially in terms of strengthening the ecosystem. Then we have policies like PLI scheme, DLI scheme. They are, the government is supporting a particular project with 50%, or, the central, not just the central government, the state government is also offering, support projects related to semiconductors, design link initiatives, 50% in the beginning, and later when it is deployed in the market, somewhere, the support comes to 6%. These are, immense initiatives taken by India today. And since you're asking me where do we collaborate, India and Japan, it has already started. MOC has been signed, and by 2027, it is expected that at least $35.9 billion of investment from Japan we're expecting. Let's see. And apart from that, company to company, collaboration and agreements are. But I would like to emphasize on certain challenges. The road is not very smooth. Of course, we have a lot of potentials to do. I would hit on few points where the challenges are there. First of all, if you see, Japan is a little bit, not just a little bit, it's actually reliant on design. And when we talk about design, its collaboration with countries like the US is very much visible. Second, you see the Taiwanese company TSMC has already, started its second plant in Kumamoto Prefecture of Japan. Then South Korean company Samsung is already there. So when we compare that, we see where are we today, India. Right? We are behind, but that doesn't mean that we are nowhere. Okay, we also have paved our path. There are challenges in terms of our infrastructure, and we are maybe still working on it, and we are yet to scale up. Second thing, if we see, uh, there are other areas, including academia and university, to focus on that because research and development is extremely important. R&D. Countries like US, they have something called university to university collaboration, and see with Hiroshima University, there's something called upwards. That is university to university level research and development, specifically in the semiconductor sector. So something like that, I think we need to focus in India and Japan, and we are working on it. Then, if we see that, how do we cope up in all these areas? There are few aspects which we cannot deny that Japan may be reliant on design. But if you see the semiconductor materials, equipment products, they are way ahead. Japan is way ahead in terms of photoresist. It is a technology because of which the small feature of a chip is happening. So Japan's lead is by 80 to 90% in the global market. Then 56% when we talk about semiconductor materials, 32% when we talk about production equipment. These are extremely crucial areas. These are the advanced materials which Japan have. Probably, not everybody, not all the global hubs have. So maybe, these areas we can actually collaborate and actually it is happening, especially back-end processes. Okay? Japan is good at it and we have already started. Then another aspect I would like to focus is that, it is not just the central government of India. The state government is also equally very interested. Take the government of Uttar Pradesh, take the government of Assam. Assam, we have already started our AT&P facility in Jagi Road. And the government of Assam is very much, interested, especially the Chief Minister, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, has taken it way ahead today. The Tata Group is investing, and Tatas have already signed agreements and MOUs with Tokyo Electron. Tokyo Electron is one of the largest when we talk about semiconductor production equipment. So we have already started, and then Renesas is already, showing quite a lot of interest in AT&T's facility in Sanad, Gujarat. Then we have Tokyo Electron, which has already opened its office in Pune, Gujarat. These are a lot of developments happening and more developments yet to happen. And I think we are doing great. We have already started our journey. It may not happen overnight, but we have started. So we have, a lot of capabilities. India, especially if I talk about, we have a, skilled workforce and we have a growing market. We have a strong political will.
Yes.
So what do we not have? And I'm pretty sure the way can be a little challenging since we have started. I'm pretty sure this sector we are going to do great with the countries.
Absolutely. And your state's interest as well as the nation's interest really takes the country far. Following this, I have another question. India has access to critical minerals, while Japan has advanced processing and refining technology. How strategic is this partnership in reducing global supply chain?
Excellent question again, Vanity. Now, when we talk about critical minerals and rare earth elements, they are actually the backbone of modern and advanced technologies today. Why I'll tell you? Because of the advanced materials. They're very critical. And without that, it cannot happen. So to understand that, we need to understand the supply chain. And when we talk about the critical minerals and rare earth elements and the supply chain, where is it concentrated? China. So China is a country which just not that has the reserves. It has the whole infrastructure. You get it? It has that kind of advanced technology which is required for refining, mining, separation, processing. Because the level of purity which is required is 99.99%. And you need very advanced equipment for that. And at the same time, you also see how China has, imposed export restrictions. We have already known that last year. So this has actually, brought a global impact. US is also concerned about. Obviously, everyone will be concerned because we are very much reliant on that source. Second thing I want to focus is on Japan has already faced this in 2010. 50 to 60% of Japan's import is reliant on China. And to get rid of what Japan did, it had allocated at least $1.2 billion, of investment so that it can reduce its reliance on China. And Japan has done great on that. Yet, for areas like, scandium, yttrium, which are extremely important for EVs, robotics, again, you are dependent. You cannot be, self-reliant. That has to be there. Now, the question arises, how do we reduce that reliance? How do we go about? And since you have asked me about India, Japan, and the areas, how we can fight, I would like to mention few points about India also. India has the third largest reserve, okay? But we really, need to scale up with the advanced technology. For as I have mentioned, for refining, for processing, for mining. These areas are crucial, and this needs advanced equipment, which we really, we are trying to work on it. But at the same time, Japan has this. So, why do we not somehow pair up? We give our resources, you give your technology, and we pair up, and we build a resilient supply chain. I'll give you a small example on it. Now, there is something called chemical mechanical thermalization. It's a process for semiconductor manufacturing, and it uses cerium mineral, which is very crucial. And these processes are very expensive, at the same time very important for semiconductor manufacturing. And these CMP pads are being produced by companies like Tohokoki of Japan, and actually they are leading way ahead of China. And the mineral which they are using is cerium. India has reserves of. Can you imagine? Now they have the technology, we have the reserve. Why do we have to be dependent on a third nation? Right. Why do not we pair up? This is a small example I'm giving you. So, these are the areas maybe where we can collaborate with the countries. And again, it is not very simple, not very easy. I'll tell you two, three points where we may get stuck. First of all, our infrastructural gap is there. Technological gap is there. The capital intensive in nature, it is not very easy, refining, separation, facilities are not very easy. As I have mentioned, technology, advanced equipment are required. And if Japan is investing, it will also need some return from it. So this thing we need to look into. Second thing, you see countries like Vietnam, Thailand, they are getting a lot of attraction from Japan. It is mostly because they are being able to offer conducive platform where Japan can collaborate or Japan can invest. But I will not be very much like I want to speak on the areas also where we are actually working. Like I have mentioned for your previous question, we have the huge market, we have our skilled workforce, and we have a very strong political will to go ahead. For example, we have come up with the National Critical Mineral Mission 2025. It's a huge step ahead towards the critical minerals sector, so we can attract our foreign partners. So in that case, I think these are excellent initiatives which are already being undertaken, and joint initiatives, co-funding can happen between India, Japan, where they can invest in third countries, be it Southeast Asian countries, be it African countries, be it Latin American countries. Then Japan is something called Economic Security Promotion Act 2020. Critical minerals is a critical vertical there. And we have NCMM. So, uh, we can, at an institutional level also, we can collaborate.
Absolutely.
Both
And
ESA and NCMM,
yeah,
So, in terms of protecting our critical minerals and our technologies, then Japan can also and India also at the same time, we can shift our focus slightly from downstream production to upstream production. When I say upstream production, it would mean, materials, minerals, mechanical tools.
yes.
And in the end, I would want to focus on one aspect is that both the countries should now focus on developing a robust critical mineral supply chain. I'll give you an example. China is reliant on Australia for lithium. Now, why don't we try to, create an ecosystem, create a supply chain where maybe China is reliant on us rather than us being vulnerable towards such a fragile supply chain. So, if these things can happen, I'm pretty sure, we can go ahead a lot.
Right, absolutely. And as you said in your previous statement, that there's political will, and if there's political will, I'm sure the government will tap into these opportunities. Coming to our next point, India and Japan share concerns about regional security. So, how much potential does a defense cooperation has in terms of co-development and co-production of defense under India's Make in India program?
It's also a very good question, Vaibhavi. So when we talk about defense cooperation, we need to understand where both the countries are today. Japan had Article 9, which renounces war. But certain developments have happened in Japan's security policies. And reinterpretation of Article 9 is one of them, giving more power to their self-defense forces. Security legislation came into being in 2000. Acquisition of Technology and Logistics Agency came into being. National Security Strategy came into being in 2022, which is that, now from 1% to 2% of the GDP will be diverted for defense budget. These are, big developments happening actually in Japan. And it has its own reason. Of course, China, North Korea, these are, their concern. And Japan also came up with these three principles on transfer of defense equipment. So these are the developments in Japan. And India today, we are focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we want to create our own equipment indigenously. And this is a core interest, core concern for India. And if we see, more or less both the countries have a lot of commonalities. We have a lot of areas. We can become natural partners actually in terms of defense collaboration also. And we have already signed a couple of agreements. For example, I'll tell you, India-Japan technology, transfer, defense technology and equipment transfer, where they say that we will collaborate, we will co-develop, we will co-produce technologies related to defense, related to equipment. And joint committees also have formed. So these are the developments which have happened, through agreements and everything. Then we have signed AXA in 2020 for logistics support. And apart from that, also, if you see the unicorn radio antenna system, where this is the first co-development in the defense sector happening between India and Japan. This is a great development, I would say, and we are very hopeful because it will enhance the stealth technology of India's naval ships. Basically, for the Indian Navy, they will be lot of they'll be helpful for them. So this is one very great crucial area. It just did not happen overnight. Lot of discussions happened. It took 2 years, 3 years time, and then it came into being. But Vaibhavi, prior to that also, we have initiated certain deals. I'll give you an example of the Shinmaya class of amphibious aircraft. When Shinzo Abe was the Prime Minister and our Prime Minister Modi, they had discussions over it. And after a couple of years, the plan did not happen. There are instances also. So why we fail, I'll tell you. There are, our DAP is very complex, multi-layered. Their IP has a lot of high standards. Export restrictions also exist in Japan, complicated a little bit. So those are certain factors. Apart from that, we send RFIs, and the time period from sending an RFI, finally, your product getting delivered. Sometimes it may take a decade time. You can imagine. Mhm. So the combination of everything somehow led to the failure of that deal. But we haven't stopped there. The best part is there. There we are focusing on co-development, co-production. We are, hoping that more R&D will happen between the two countries. So unicorn is an example already. Apart from that, if you see, there are government institutions level cooperation. Now, like the representatives of ATLA have already visited the Mazagaon, shipyards, and they're discussing on undersea platforms, and they're discussing on robotics. So these are critical areas. Shipbuilding also is one of the aspects where discussions are going on. DRDO representatives meeting ATLA representatives. Um, Initiatives which have been happening on both the sides mutually, and we are very hopeful about it. Another area I want to focus is maritime domain awareness. We all know it is all about data sharing and information sharing. I'll not go details into it. But one thing with Japan we can do is Japan is very much advanced when it comes to simulation. They use AI technologies for simulation. So if India and Japan can, collaborate in simulation trainings, nothing like that. This is an important point. And other areas are there, the drone sector especially. Japan is very much ahead when it comes to advanced stealth drone technology. RQ-1 class, this is indigenously built, and Loyal Wingman is there. So these are, we can study it in details later. So these areas also, Japan is quite ahead, and Japan has its own OSA list. Under this list, it also supports other countries in terms of the drone sector. But unfortunately, India is not a part of it. But that doesn't matter much because we have also come up with certain initiatives, say like IDEX, TF funds offered by DRDO, then TLI schemes, and the India also want to become a global hub by 2020. So we have also started our own initiatives. I think definitely we can become global partners, natural partners in this sector. And even if we are not in the OSA list, we can develop our own drone bilateral cooperation framework, our own R&D, and we can focus on the security drones also. That is one area where we can collaborate. So I would just end by saying that we do not believe in military alliance, but military industrial, development collaboration can definitely.
Indeed, defense cooperation between two strong economies that have so much talent
Right.
and technology and infrastructure, they should definitely pair up and work for the future South Asian region.
That's
Coming to my last question, which is the biggest strength of any bilateral ties, that is the people. With Japan facing demographic challenges and India has a young workforce, how can labor mobility, skill exchange, and language training deepen this mutual trust?
again, that is a very, crucial part actually. So with the demographic decline happening in Japan and India, if we see, we have the world's youngest workforce. So labor mobility can be a very significant strategic pillar for our two countries. And it has started. Last year, our Prime Minister visited Japan in August 2025. And he exactly, spoke on few very critical points related to your question. First of all is, like exchange programs, where, we send our students and, working especially in the field of artificial intelligence, robotics, semiconductor manufacturing. And that can happen through, PhD programs, maybe spending time for 3 to 4 years there, or, various projects can happen, study more, on research related to their specific subjects. So this has already started developing. And we want that, our young researchers, our young workforce, they go and somehow they are able to integrate with their advanced technology ecosystem. This is also a push which is there. And second pillar I would want to focus is on language and culture. This is also one important aspect. And you see Japan Foundation Media, which is doing an extremely great job actually in terms of language and culture. And today we are not just focusing on low to medium skilled employment services. Our focus is today on advanced knowledge intensive services and employment. So, these are certain areas. Again, I'll come back to the state government here. I'll again give you an example. It's not just the effort, coming from the central government. The government of Assam, again, I'm giving an example because the chief minister there is trying his also best to create a Japan focused development through language, through culture. The pressure is the enthusiasm is there from the state government also. So I think keeping everything in mind, the two countries can do a lot, especially build a relationship of trust and cooperation in all the aspects which we have discussed, be it technology, be it critical minerals, defense cooperation, and people to people.
Right, indeed, people are the pillar of strength. So, as we explore today, India Japan partnership has moved beyond shared values and strategic intent to something far more consequential, building real and durable linkages from people crossing the borders and ideas flowing between societies to advanced technologies shaping the future industries, critical mineral powering the green transition, and defense cooperation underpinning regional stability. Each pillar strengthens the other. The task ahead is of execution, translating vision into institutions, agreements into outcomes, and trust into tangible impact. I'm certain that if India and Japan can meet these challenges, this partnership will not only serve the national interest, but will also help shape the future in the Pacific and the South Asian region. With this, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ulupi. It was great having you.
Thank you so much, Vaibhavi, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so
And
much.
thank you to the audience as well for joining us and keeping till the very end. Thank you so much.